Hey everyone, it's the Don't Let the Jehovah's Witnesses Coerce You Into Baptism show with the host Susan Gaskin. A JW couple who shunned their own son. Governing body member David Splain. Governing body member Tony Morris. Author of Paradise Bound, the lovely Carrie B. And an unknown JW elder from Bethel.
Hello everyone and welcome to our show today. Thank you all for coming out. We really appreciate that. Today's show is a really great one because we feature some governing body members. We've also got an author on the program and it's going to be really great. So let's hop to it. The show is entitled Don't Let the Jehovah's Witnesses Coerce You Into Baptism. And specifically, we're talking about children. Now you might wonder, well, why is this an issue? I mean, there are religions out there that actually baptize infants. Well, the problem is when you want to leave the organization. Let's say you're disturbed by some of the policies within the organization, you don't agree maybe with the overlapping generations thing, or you're really unhappy with the way they're covering up the pedophile matters, and you just want to leave. The problem is that your family and all of your friends are held hostage from you. You see, there's no dignified way to leave the organization. If you decide you'd like to leave, well, you're going to have to leave everybody you've ever loved behind. Because you see, you're not allowed to have friends outside of the organization. So when you decide to leave the organization, you have to leave everybody behind. Let's look at this clip from a JW couple from last summer's convention that they had. I think they call them now regional conventions. And they're held up to all of us as a shining example of how we should treat our children when they decide to leave the religion.
What was it that moved your child to return to Jehovah?
Well, it was the missed association with the family, and here's why. I had always told our kids, I told our kids that I would die for you, I love you, would die for you, but if you ever leave Jehovah, I wouldn't be there. And they knew that we wouldn't waver on this. But sad to say, and as hard as it was, we had to cut off all association.
It's sick, isn't it? First of all, one thing that bothered me about it was she said that her son had left Jehovah. But what really happened was that her son had left the organization. They're not at all the same thing. They love in this religion to say, to use the word Jehovah for organization, and they keep flipping them around to get them all messed up in your head so that you think that Jehovah equals their organization, but it doesn't. They're not the same, and they've never been the same. Secondly, she says, I'm going to die for my kids, I could die for my kids, and yet at the first opportunity when the child says, hey, I don't want to be part of your religion anymore, she dumps him. She's out. You know, this isn't love. This is what we call conditional love. I'll love you if you do this, or I'll love you when you do that. But, you know, the Bible actually gives us a definition of what love is. I think it's in the book of 1 Corinthians 13, maybe, where it says, love believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things, love never fails. Well, if you're Jehovah's Witness, love fails, because their love is completely conditional. If and when you do what they want you to do. And if you don't do it, then they withdraw that love and leave you basically to wither and die on your own. So does the literature actually agree with what this couple is doing? We're looking here at the July 2009 Awake magazine, where it says, no one should be forced to worship in a way that he finds unacceptable or be made to choose between his beliefs and his family. Yet we see that is exactly what the Jehovah's Witnesses organization has you do. If you don't choose the religion, you can say goodbye to your family. They obviously wrote this article with other religions in mind, not their religion, of course. But it's totally hypocritical for them to expect everyone else to apply it, but not them. People refuse to accept that the child has his own free will, and they completely cut off all association with him in a very cruel and disgusting manner. They're actually really lucky that the son didn't commit suicide, because it's not uncommon when you're left completely alone and hung out to dry like that to do something like that. The sad thing is that the son actually did come back to the organization. Was it because he realized, oh, it's actually the true organization after all? Nope, nothing of the sort. As the mother said, he came back because he missed the association of the family. Such a wrong reason for coming back to Jehovah's organization, isn't it? I've referred to this before in a previous video, but it's so excellent I wanted to highlight it again. It's from the June 2013 Awake magazine, where it refers to shunning as a means to retaliate or manipulate a loved one, and that it runs counter to the Bible's admonition to love. So how did this situation even get to this point? Well, you see, Jehovah's Witnesses' strategy is to baptize children as young as 7 years old. It's funny because they boast that they don't baptize infants, but what's the difference really? I mean, children who live at home have absolutely no life experience, and they do what they're told. So if you tell them that there's a tooth fairy, they believe that there's a tooth fairy. And they're not given the whole picture of what's going on really in the organization. They don't know about all the failed prophecies. They don't know about all the cover-ups of child molestation. So when they are pushed to dedicate their lives, they do it. And then when they grow up and realize what's really gone on in the organization and they want to leave, they can't do it, well, at least not without losing their entire family and all of their friends. Check out this clip now from governing body member David Splain. He brings out here that he's shocked that children as old as 13 years old aren't baptized yet. And then he tries to blame it on the parents and tries to guilt them into feeling bad because if your kids aren't baptized by 13, well, it must be the parents' fault for not indoctrinating them properly.
And then we find that young ones 13, 14, 15 years old are not even baptized. And yet their parents have studied with them since infancy. Well, it makes us wonder sometimes, is our teaching program really effective? Now sometimes young ones feel that, oh, they don't want to follow the truth too much. They don't feel like getting up and going out in field service on Saturday mornings, or maybe not to attend the meetings. And the parents say, well, you know, I don't like to force my children to do something they don't want to do. I want it to come from their heart. But is that really wise?
That's so bizarre. So it's not wise for it to come from your child's heart? I know what he's trying to say here, as I was in that organization for 30 years. He's trying to say that it should be a serious matter to your kids. And yes, we all get that. But nevertheless, it still should come from your child's heart. And they need to know what the consequences are of making this huge decision, that there's huge consequences as well. Let's look now at a clip from another governing body member, this one Tony Morris, that he gave at a convention. It's where he encourages parents to blackmail their kids if they don't get baptized.
Unless you're a toddler, we know how Jehovah will sanctify them. But as you get older, you are responsible. Remember the nice demo? We've mentioned that before. Well, I'm not ready to get baptized. Okay, let's hold off on your driver's license. What? I'm 16. What are you talking about? I'm ready. I know I'm ready. Yeah, you're ready for a driver's license, but you're not ready to dedicate your life. Explain that one to heaven. That's why we repeated it on the program.
That is so messed up. Can you imagine treating a Bible student that way? Oh, they don't want to get baptized. Well, let's take away their car keys or let's block them in their own driveway. I mean, you wouldn't treat a Bible student that way. So why would you treat your own child that way? And Tony Morris is really on dangerous ground here, making it sound like heaven would be upset and would punish you for not getting baptized at 16. Jesus wasn't baptized till he was 30. And when he did get baptized, it was his decision as an adult when he could understand all the consequences. There's no mention of Mary, Joseph, or God threatening or pushing him into doing it. Oh, let's take away his camel. He doesn't want to get baptized. In fact, you know, the baptism of minors is not even mentioned in the Bible, ever. Last year's JW convention had the theme, Imitate Jesus. Everything this is not. I was born into the organization. My parents joined because they were basically tricked into joining because the organization was saying at that time that 1975 would be the end of the world. And so they joined the organization, and I didn't have any choice. I had to come along with them. They didn't force me to get baptized, but they forced me to go to all the meetings. And the idea was that if I didn't like it, well, I could leave. But I was just a kid, so I was too scared to leave. So I would have to go to all the meetings, go in service, and so forth. Well, when I was about 13 years old, a family moved into my congregation with a girl who was the same age as me, but she'd already been baptized. And so the pressure was now on. Everyone is saying, oh, this girl is a great example, and Susan should follow her example and get baptized. You see, at that time period, if you were 16 years old and you weren't baptized, you were considered to be a bad associate. And the problem is, the only friends you're allowed to have are within the organization. So if you're considered a bad associate within the organization, then there's nobody you're allowed to associate with. And being the kind of person that I was, where I just did what I'm told, I got baptized. You see, they were saying, as they've been saying for over 100 years, the end is near, you're going to be killed at Armageddon, you got to get baptized. So I did what I was told, and I got baptized. Little did I know that the end wasn't around the corner, and that the organization views your baptism as an actual contract with life, which is a lifelong commitment. Take a look at this letter from a lawyer representing the JWs. Notice it says that from the date of your baptism, you agree to submit to the rules and procedures of the ecclesiastical government of Jehovah's Witnesses. You know, I had no idea when I got baptized that these were the rules. I never signed anything, and what I had verbally agreed to in 1983 at my baptism changed in 1985. Check it out here. It's really point number 2 we're looking at. It says, on the basis of this faith in God and in his provision for salvation, have you dedicated yourself unreservedly to God to do his will henceforth, as he reveals it to you through Jesus Christ and through the Bible under the enlightenment of the Holy Spirit. Yes, the organization claims that we are not baptized or dedicated to an organization. You notice quotes here both from the 1955 and the 1966 Watchtowers, saying we do not dedicate ourselves to a religion, nor to a man, nor to an organization. And yet, in 1985, the second question was changed to say, do you understand that your dedication and baptism identify you as one of Jehovah's Witnesses in association with God's Spirit-directed organization? Turning a person's dedication and baptism to God into a dedication and enslavement contract to an organization is nowhere to be found in the Bible. You know, when the Ethiopian eunuch asks Philip what prevented him from getting baptized, did Philip hand him a contract to sign and have him pledge his allegiance to an organization? No, of course not. In the account in the Bible book of Acts, they pass a body of water and he gets baptized. No questions, no elders, no counseling sessions in the back room of the Kingdom Hall, no molestation. In other words, nothing like what the JWs do. The process is so long and complicated in the JW organization that you don't even realize that you ended up dedicating yourself to a bunch of old men and not to God. Children who are indoctrinated from infancy and get baptized not understand the consequences of this huge decision. But when they get to be in their later teens or early 20s, their ideas and goals change so much. This is why the law protects minors, why there's laws to prevent minors from drinking, from joining the army, or from voting, or doing these kinds of things, from getting married. When a person is baptized as a minor and they decide then that they don't want to be a Jehovah's Witness anymore, well, we can see what the consequences are of that. They're completely cut off from their family and all of their friends.
We had to cut off all association.
So is there another way to get your family back without having to go back to the organization? Well, the very talented Carrie B., author of the book Paradise Bound, tried to have her baptism annulled. She too was baptized at the age of 14, before she really understood what the consequences were of her baptism. And since she no longer wants to be part of the organization, her family has cut her off for over 20 years. Her children don't even know their grandparents. She called up Bethel and she recorded the conversation. Before we listen to the actual conversation, we don't know what this Bethel worker actually looked like. And even if we did, we wouldn't put his face up on the screen. So what I did is I did a compilation of what he might look like. So I took the crown of governing body members Garrett Loesch's head. I took the eyes of David Splain, the mouth of Toni Morris, the Rolex watch of Samuel Hurd, the wagging pinky ring finger of Stephen Lett. I took Jeffrey Jackson's ears and his torso and the JW Broadcasting background. And we put it all together. And what do we get? Here he is, our Bethel Compilation man. So here's the actual phone call, and we can picture this guy talking to Carrie B.
Good afternoon, Service Department.
Hi there. I was wondering if you can put me in touch with like an elder or someone in the legal department. I have a couple of questions about my affiliation with Jehovah's Witnesses.
You know, I do apologize, but the legal department does not handle personal matters, or they're not able to take personal phone calls. But you're speaking with an elder.
Okay, if I can speak with you, that would be fantastic.
Oh, yeah, that's perfectly fine.
How are you today?
Good. How about yourself?
Oh, good. I'm wonderful. I have a question. You know, I was baptized into the organization as a minor back in 1988, and I was wondering what the procedure is to get that baptism annulled. You know, I even have a 14-year-old, and I couldn't imagine her making a life decision, you know, of baptism and a dedication to an organization that would result in, you know, a family split up. So how could they, with, you know, ethically, you know, describe or even, you know, allow that?
Have you, and this is an option that we want to provide for you. Have you spoken with the local congregation elders regarding this matter?
Well, I was directed to call the headquarters.
Okay, but by whom?
By an elder, actually the congregation overseer.
Oh, one of the elders in the congregation?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Would it probably be best if you can, if possible, especially when it comes to these matters, we would prefer that you write us.
Write a letter?
Yeah, write a letter, and then we'll do our best to assist you.
Okay, well, I mean, I'm sure that this has happened before. What is the standard procedure for someone who, you know, of course, like I said, was a child, didn't know what they were doing? You know, like I said, I feel like I was coerced, and as a result, my parents don't even know their grandchildren. So,
are you at this point? How does the congregation recognize you?
I'm considered disfellowshipped.
Okay, all right. So you were disfellowshipped. How long ago?
Oh, it's been since about 1996.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, in this case, the way you would go about it, and if you want to, you can. We would encourage you to write us a letter with your circumstance.
Okay, and once a letter is written, which steps do they take after that?
We will respond back to you.
Okay, well, like respond as in we're going to annul your baptism, or are you going to then release my parents to be allowed to speak with their family, or like what is the normal thing that they do?
Mm-hmm. At this point, we can't annul a person's baptism. We haven't been given that authority because the person's made a dedication not to our organization but to Jehovah.
Yeah, but a child? I mean, do they normally baptize? I mean, I've known people who are as young as 9, 8 years old. How can they hold a child to that? That's my question.
That's why, if you feel like yours is the exception, that's why we ask you to write.
Well, I think any child making a decision at that age, there's nothing exceptional about that. That should be cut and dry.
Well, that's a personal decision.
A child of that age is too young to make a personal decision of that nature. Wouldn't you agree?
I will say this. Some children are able to make personal decisions at a young age.
So they don't have a problem, like just baptizing a young child?
We don't baptize you when you're an infant.
No, I mean like whenever they're 9, 10. 9, 10-year-old,
What they know
14.
about what they do, they have an accurate knowledge. And
How
then
can a
having-
child have an accurate knowledge at that age whenever, you know, especially with the organization, how they practice shunning, how could they have that understanding at that age when they have parents that could be coercing them?
Well, that's why we believe it's a personal decision. It's not an organization decision. It's a personal decision.
But the
But like I
child
said-
making a personal decision of that nature is just outrageous.
And there are certain steps that we take to make sure that the person does knowingly know what they're
What type
doing.
of steps
They
do
meet
you
with the
give? What
elders.
type of steps do you take when it's a child?
Well, they meet with the elders just like everyone else do. Elders in the congregation to make sure they have a basic knowledge, and they really want.
So all you need is a basic knowledge to actually, you know, make a decision like that could actually result in losing your family. Do you see?
Decision? Was this decision the result of your disfellowshipping or an action that you took?
No, I did not believe that the organization is the truth. I've researched how it had stems to do with the Adventist movement. You know, it's a doomsday cult, and I left because I found out a lot of, you know, and plus the child abuse allegations going on. I mean, it's not a good thing. It's dangerous.
At this point, that's the option that we have, and we want to make known to you. And so, if you want to take advantage of that, you can feel free.
Okay. Well, you know, one more thing I want to mention. You know, the Jehovah's Witness organization is not a child-free. It's not a child-friendly organization. They practice shunning. You should never baptize a child with those types of consequences. And you know, having little Caleb and Sophia cartoons. That's a really brilliant marketing strategy, but, you know, to try to lure people in. But you really, personally, you yourself should really reconsider what you're doing.
Well, we don't agree with you. But as mentioned earlier, if you want to send us that letter, feel free. It's not your personal choice.
So like a letter, writing, so if I write a letter to the headquarters, they're going to annul a decision I made as a child?
We're definitely not saying that.
Well, then what good is it going to do when I write a letter?
We can review your situation.
Okay, so once you review my situation, then what do you do? If you're not, the only thing I want is my name to be legally stricken from your records.
What I'm telling you, why do you feel that it's legally a part of our records?
Well, I know how you turn in time. I know my name is probably up there as, you know, as being a disfellowship person.
They don't turn in your time to us.
I know that my name is on record there, and I know that what's how they keep their records. They always have and always will. And I just want my baptism annulled.
I'm so sorry, because if it's a personal decision, in most cases that cannot be done. But if you would like, we do offer that one provision, and but it's up to you.
What is the provision that you're offering?
And so I've explained it a couple of times already, and I'm not going to proceed, ma'am. I do apologize. You're getting frustrated regarding this matter.
Well, I mean,
but at this point, that's the provision. Whatever.
Well, sir, I have to be honest with you. Not having my parents in my life is an okay thing. You know, it's because it's well worth having the freedom of the lies and deception. I don't know if you know about it. Maybe you believe in it. Maybe you are hooked on it. Obviously, you are because of the position you're in.
We are not over the phone to discuss that matter. And so
if you want to be in denial, that's okay. I'm just glad to be free of the deception of the Watchtower. Do some research. Research the history. Research the encyclopedia.
At this point, we're going to have to let you go.
Have a fabulous New Year.
Take care.
So as you just heard, Carrie did an amazing job. But no matter what she said, she wasn't able to get her baptism annulled. A dedication and baptism that she made when she was a child and was coerced into doing. And it's had devastating results. She's lost her family and hasn't been able to speak to them for 20 years. And her children have lost their grandchildren. It's an organization that uses threatening tactics, bullying tactics. They coerce children into lifelong contracts that they bind them to. And there seems to be no way out. least not without kissing your friends and your family goodbye. This is why I'm trying to educate people so that they understand what really is going on. And I'd love it if our governments would change the law so that organizations would not be able to take advantage of people in this manner. So the key then is, don't let yourself be coerced into getting baptized as a Jehovah's Witness. And if you know of anybody who's contemplating baptism into that organization, please educate them into what the consequences are of this decision. So thank you very much for watching my video, and if you liked it, then like it. See you next time.